It's saying only you can share the meeting. Am I good to start?
You're good.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Donna Gorton, and this is my premiere show of Willows Bend. And let me just explain a little bit about myself and what Willows Bend is about. So it's a topic-driven show. The audience gets to choose the topic each week. I have a Facebook group by the same name of Willows Bend that the show gets shared into and around Facebook land. And so if anybody has any input who is not linked to me through Facebook, you can always welcome to join. And so I myself am I'm an psychic medium. I am a medicine woman, a wise woman. I can remote view. I do all of that stuff. So what we tend to cover in here is anything from mystical, unexplained, some ancient history, unexplained ancient history. We love a good conspiracy theory in Willows Bend as well. And so today's topic is going to be on cats and spirituality. So let's get started. For me, in my group, this is episode number 114, but I know it's first on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network. So welcome, everybody, and hopefully you enjoyed that. I'm working on trying to get it to share to Facebook, and it's not cooperating with me, so I feel bad for all my members. So all I can ask is that you guys can bear with me for a second. I'm going to see what I can do. I don't know if it's going to let me share it or not from Messenger, but anyways, I guess I'll just have to share after the fact and kind of apologize to the group afterward. They'll understand technical glitches. Anyway, so cats and spirituality as a topic. So cats have always been revered as energetically and spiritually enlightened animals for those who vibe with cats. Of course, everybody has either they're cat lovers, dog lovers, or just generally animal lovers. Some people despise cats, which is fine. But for those who enjoy cats' companies and who understand cats, they are respected for. Thank you for sharing that out to my group. I appreciate that. For those who understand cats, they're respected for their deep sense of independence, their ability to exist more independently than dogs tend to do. And, dogs are great. I have a Dalmatian of my own who's an old guy. He's laying behind me right now. But, cats, they fend for themselves a little bit more easily, as most of us who have cats know. And so with respect to that, if you are a cat lover, you tend to be aware that, they have some extra sensory stuff that they just have a heightened awareness of things. And that kind of goes beyond the five senses. And most animals tend to be empathic, meaning they're able to pick up on our moods, our facial expressions and things that's kind of normal. They read our body language, right? All animals can, as much as we read theirs to communicate and so forth. But beyond that, it kind of goes a little bit above that. But cats worldwide, every culture has their own outlook on cats spiritually, and they end up some love them, some hate them, some has a lot of lore, some of it's scary based on my research last night and things I'd never noticed before. A lot of superstitions out there as well, especially regarding black cats. But so for the purposes of tonight's show, I'm going to be focusing on the domestic cat. And so different spiritual paths can view cats differently. And so let's look at some of these and kind of break it down on belief systems, on locations, etc. And so first of all, let's start, I guess, with not the most basic, but at least here in the United States anyways, Christianity is pretty widespread, and it's not practiced by everybody. Of course, I myself am not a Christian, and that's okay. Everybody has their own path, and there's nothing wrong with that. So a lot of Christians believe that angels can be connected to cats. And so, and please bear with me, guys, because I have a secondary tablet I'm using off to the side here to kind of monitor any comments that are coming into my Facebook group, because that's what I always do, is we interact, we read comments, we share stuff together. They have their input and so forth. So I want to give a shout out to everybody who's watching in Willows Bend. I appreciate it, and I apologize for the delay in starting. Always going to be something when you start out the gate. So I'll set up my notes. So cats it said work with Archangel Raphael with healing work to assist humans and with the planet. And I've never personally heard of this archangel, so this is new to me. But Archangel Jophiel, and it's said to work with lions to bring down their energies from other solar systems to them to function on this plane of existence. And some also call on Archangel Fulya. I'm probably butchering that, and my apologies if I am. And St. Francis of Assisi, who both work closely with helping animals in general, with helping save them, rescue them, etc., heal them, so forth. They're called, those deities and beings are often called upon to, if you have an issue with an animal's in distress, what have you, they're frequently called upon to help with those, with a cat in that situation. But it's also so that they can deliver messages through cats to us if you are intuitive and can tune into them, which, as anybody who deals with cats, we know they can be aloof as hell as well. So now, from the other side of Christianity, a lot of Christians also tie cats to Satanism and witchcraft, and cats have, which is seen as evil and bad things. Now, I myself am also a witch. I'm a white witch. I only do good things and work to help people. I do not go and cast any harmful spells against anybody or practice any black magic. And some people say, oh, all of that magic is bad. Well, if that's your viewpoint, that's okay. I'm many things. I'm a mixture of everything kind of put together with respect to that kind of a mud, if you will, in my belief systems. But I draw from different disciplines to kind of do what is right for my path. So cats were also first domesticated, it's guesstimated somewhere around 4,000 years ago in ancient Egypt anyway, and they were highly worshipped in Egypt and elevated and personified in the goddess deity of Bastet. And she is shown as being half cat and half woman in the ancient hieroglyphs. Now, I do have a few photos to try to show tonight. We're going to see, hopefully the camera will pick up on them okay. And the lighting isn't going to be weird, because normally in my group anyway, my show starts at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So this is a little bit different for all of us in here as to when we get going. So here's a picture, if we can get it to come across on camera, from a hieroglyph, an ancient Egyptian artwork of how Bastet is oftentimes, she's shown on, let me see if I can get this reversed. There we go. And I can see what's happening on my camera view. So in a lot of hieroglyphs, again, she's shown as being half cat, half woman. So kind of the body of a woman, but the head and face of a cat. Now, that being said, there's also a lot of statuary of Bastet that gets shown. Let's open this one up. Now, this is currently in the, I believe, the museum in London. And so, if you look really super close, if I can get it closer here, you can see there's a pendant around its neck, and it has like a scarab beetle on it. And this was oftentimes used, and actually along the base of the statue are a lot of hieroglyphic messages. I don't read hieroglyphs personally, so I can't tell you what those say. However, just make sure, okay, caught up on the comments. So from the Egyptian perspective, archaeologists actually had thought that there were cat farms where people raised and bred cats for the sole purpose of selling them to people to be sacrificed to Bastet and then mummified and presented as an offering, with the hopes that Bastet would help you and support you through whatever you needed assistance with. Now, that being said, there were certain things that Bastet was said to help with, including she was considered a guardian against evil and disease, and also could help with fertility and motherhood. And so there was actually separate temples that were made to Bastet, where there are recent finds in Saqqara, Egypt, where it was like in a necropolis, where they recently discovered, I think it was somewhere along the lines of like 15,000 mummified cats, including that of a couple of lion cubs, which there weren't lions in Egypt at that time. So they imported them in order to present them as offerings. Now, all that aside, there were cats that were very highly revered as pets, personal pets for people, and they were loved and dearly, and they were very much respected within the person's household. If you were more of a fan of dogs, you could have dogs, of course, too, but it was the cat that was more promoted within the culture. So, and just again, for anybody who is watching from my Facebook group, I am monitoring your comments. Karen got on a 24-hour ban from May. Wow, Facebook's a little late on that one. So in Mesopotamia, wildcats actually lived amongst the Mesopotamians over 100,000 years ago. There were signs of their archaeological remains were found in that area. And it was thought that they were domesticated around 12,000 BCE, which stands for before current era. Which is kind of the new archaeological way of looking at it, to kind of leave religion out of the time count that we use on our timeline. Where it used to be BC, it's now BCE is the widely accepted and used term. As you follow me through here, you'll learn I'm an archaeological nut. If I had another lifetime or circumstances had been different, I would have pursued that as a field of interest for myself. I was my life at the time that when I was in school did not allow for it to be. That's a little better, isn't it? I just realized that light was off. Sorry, guys. But I minored in it in college, so it's always been an interest in kind of things I followed throughout the intervening years. So now in China, whilst cats aren't as revered as here and can often, unfortunately, be eaten as a food source, they do have a goddess there named Li Shu, who took the form of a cat for fertility and pest-free fields. So prayers and so forth would be made to her in cat form with the hopes that she would bless their fields and allow for fertility for infertile couples. We know, too, that in the Chinese culture, it's limited now for how many children you're allowed to have. However, back then it wasn't as limited, and you would have bigger families in order to work the fields and so forth. So she was prayed to for that, but she wasn't seen as being a cat in general. She took the form of one. So kind of jumping back now to the Mesopotamia area, the cats were actually domesticated around 12,000 BCE, and it happened to actually be around the same time as dogs, sheep, and goats were, which is interesting because dogs were domesticated as well to have as pets, but they're kind of lumped in as being seen as with livestock too, which is different. But then you go into Japan. Now there is a good luck cat that we often see. I think it's displayed worldwide, really. Let me get an image of it for you. There we go. Let me show you that real quick. And this is called a good luck cat. And I will call up its name on the next slide so I can know how to pronounce it correctly, for I also do not speak Japanese. But as you can see, and for a pointer, it's holding it's supposed to be gold coins. So it's often put in around businesses, proprietorships, etc., and even personal homes for use for bringing prosperity in. So it's in English, means the beckoning cat because he's waving his little paw, and his name is Maneki Neko. So that's a famous figure in Japan. However, it's not they're not really seen as having any spiritual sense in China. And again, maybe it's because they're eaten, unfortunately. But that's my guess, anyways. And there's also a lot of a fear of ancient lore surrounding ginormous supernatural gargantuan cats that do a lot of spiritual harm, or seen as scary anyways, with a lot of superstitions surrounding them. So again, they're viewed differently around the world, so that is a thing. Yes, Karen, they are seen, and they are really, really cute. I agree. And hey, Miss Amanda, lots of love to you, sis. So they kind of embody mysticism in Japan more than not. Again, they have kind of like a terrifying history folklore wise, but they're not like a spiritual thing. But there are shrines to worship cats as gods across Japan, but it's a very select population that tends to worship them there, so it's not super widespread amongst like the general population's thoughts on it. And then going into Europe as a whole, it's thought that cats first became associated with the underworld and with witchcraft by the Greeks and the Romans, which was surprising to me, who, whilst revering them as gods, not revering them as gods, but they did have them as beloved pets, which, seeing Zeus petting a cat kind of takes a little bit of his menacing power away, I guess, or lowers it a little bit. No offense to Zeus, of course, but seeing him with a kitty on his lap would present a different image of him. So they were thought to have them as pets, as gods in their realms. So, and there was one ancient legend Roman story that was pertaining to the gods, where there was some argument amongst a few different of them, where I think it was like a husband and wife, god and goddess, where he basically in anger turned his wife into a cat, which I suppose there are worse things to be. And what compared to what some of them did or are said to have done to other beings out of revenge or anger, that's pretty minor in comparison. So with going into the Celts, there are associations with their goddess Bridget, who helps with a lot of animal healing and protection as well among the Celtic civilization. And she is still called upon amongst many who follow a path of witchcraft, either considering themselves Wiccan or pagans, and even going further back, Druids. She can be called upon to assist you with caring for your animals in distress, helping locate lost ones, bring them home, etc. And she has the love of all animals, so not just cats, but she does help with that. Okay, sorry, I was just following my Facebook comments. And so in Norse mythology, the goddess Freyja, and I might be butchering it wrong, and I apologize if I am, again, don't speak Norse, had her chariot drawn, interestingly, by two cats. Had never heard of that one, so that was new to me as well. So obviously, she was a goddess is using them to pull her chariot. They are held in high esteem there. And kind of jumping back a little bit to Christianity, Christianity weighs in kind of divided on feline symbolism and spirituality. So despite one of the earliest references in Christianity is of cats is a tabby, which I've not come across this story either, so I learned a lot in the research for this, was a tabby cat who allegedly comforted a newborn baby Jesus, and that in return, the Virgin Mary, his mother, had blessed the cat for comforting her child, and made the M that many tiger cats have on their foreheads, that's said to have come from the Virgin Mary. Interesting, but they do all have it, and that is a hallmark symbol that all tabby cats tabby cats tend to have is that M on their forehead is a marking that lets anybody who deals with breeds know, hey, this is a true tabby cat. So good of an explanation as any as to where that M may have come from. So it wasn't long though before cats had become associated with the dark arts and witchcraft, and often were sadly burned at the stake alongside of their humans. I mean, I've covered witchcraft in past shows and the history of it, both across Europe and in America, and what actually happened there, the true history of it. It's not in the history books, but there obviously is some recording somewhere of it that this is a general practice where they would, terminate the cat with the human in association because, of course, the linking of it to Satanism and so forth. So Stephen's saying he has an orange tabby. She's Bane. For those who are new to me, because this is going out across the world, I'll introduce you. She's sleeping right now, but so this is my cat, little girl, and she's kind of half tabby in the front, like tiger cat, and then the back of her is what do they call it? She's I just blanked on the word. What the heck? Where they are. Oh my gosh, I just lost the word. I'm so sorry. This will happen if you follow me. Had one too many head knocks that has left me with some permanent memory stuff where when I go to get a word out, it gets lost. Anybody who knows little girl might chat if you could throw that out there where she's half and half. I've showed you guys a million times, but and then I don't know if he'll show, but just so you're aware of him, that's my dog Jake back there who's sleeping with his head up against my back. There are times, or maybe times, during shows that I'm doing that I have to get up and take him out because he's old. He can't wait that long when he has to go. So he's probably about 15, 16. Hi, Sandy. You did find me, and that's okay. It's a completely new way of connecting with Facebook and, with the new network. So I didn't expect it to not go off without a hitch. That's it's bound to happen. So I thank everybody there for your patience and as we got up and running today. So going forward now, back to the research. So yeah, there's a darker history with cats overall. I mean, you can be spiritually where you can be a Christian, absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with that, obviously, but consider yourself more spiritual in nature to where you don't actively go to church and practice from that respect, but it doesn't change your belief systems at all. And that's how a lot of us in the US anyway actually consider and practice them from themselves for a Christian standpoint of they're spiritual. And it means, and it to me, across any discipline of belief systems, being spiritual means that you have your foundation of beliefs, whatever they may be, and there isn't anything wrong with any of those belief systems, but they're expanded beyond that. You don't have to go to a specific place of worship in order to honor those beliefs and to kind of live that out in your personal life. So a lot of Christians love cats, have them as pets, revere them, are cat people. We have a running joke here in the U.S. of, you're going to be over 40 and be a cat lady, meaning that you're going to have 40 cats and never get married type of situation. Not the first time I've been called one myself before. These guys are the only two I have currently, but there have been times in my life I've had many. They find you when they need them overall. So back to the research. So within Europe and in Middle Eastern cultures, so black cats are spiritually have been seen as harbingers of death, which is so ominous sounding, isn't it? And they have several superstitions surrounding them. And I think that general superstition toward black cats is kind of a global thing that still is very much adhered to today, where it's an undercurrent of not wanting a black cat to cross your path. It's bad bad luck, or it just in general. And it actually almost led to the destruction and extinction of them as part of the cat species, because of people, they were seen as bad luck and the bringers of death or forewarners of death. So if you, in other words, you would see one and you would go on to experience a dramatic death in your family or your personal life. So if I don't see it, then I won't find out about it, right? Or it may not happen. So they were killed on sight, unfortunately, solely for their color, which is completely unfortunate. Yes, Jen, you did find me. You could still be a cat lady, Karen, if that's your goal in your life. That's okay. So there are still existing today many superstitions of bad luck associated with them. They are no different than any other cat, other than, after having owned black cats before myself, I would honestly really put them in the category of they have a little bit more of a boundary line, to where when they don't want to be messed with, pet, or handled, they'll let you know a little quicker than perhaps some other breeds, and they'll latch onto you, bite you, scratch you, jump away, whatever. But they oftentimes still come back and apologize, and they just have like almost like a sensory overload with it, where they're done and they need a space to kind of switch gears. And every black cat I've ever had has always come back to kind of say they're sorry for if they hurt you. But in the moment, they reach their limit, they're done. So, and other than that, I have noticed no difference amongst black cats. And usually if they tend to be like that as well, they can have a feral part of their line, their lineage, to where it takes, like, I think I read somewhere, up to 7 generations of cats to breed that temperament out of their aspect and carriage. But yes, temperamental, absolutely, Sandy. They can be. But beyond that, they're not bad luck. They're not bringers of death. And of course, me saying it isn't going to undo any superstitions on it. But yeah, they were unfortunately nearly wiped out because of that. Now, jumping over to Buddhism. Now, Buddhists see a cat's body as a temporary resting place where the souls of spiritual people can rest for a short period of time before continuing on their reincarnational path. And I would think it would be kind of like if someone happened to die, that they could perhaps enter the body of a soul or the body of a cat to rest before continuing to cross over and then come back from there. But it's allowed, it's accepted, it's respected that they can do that, which is, it's all good things, right? So now let's look at other spiritual attributes that cats can have. Now, again, this is going to vary from how different people interact with them and view them. You do get those people who are gifted, who say they can communicate with animals, not just reading their body language, but can talk to them. I know I can do that. It's been validated before that I can. And it is a different, I work a lot with energetic vibrations. I feel them. If that, I know it can sound crazy if you don't do it or never have experienced it, but even science says we are ultimately made up of energy, that there's enough energy in the human body to light a light bulb for an extended period of time, or a battery, and charge a battery, keep a battery running, etc., which is true. So they, even though they haven't pierced the other side's veil with regards to, how, just checking my battery level on that one, it runs down quick, how the other side, if there is another side and so forth. But if you are more inclined to that way of thinking, then that's being, if you have gifts especially, we understand that energy doesn't ever die. It changes forms, but that's it. It can rise and lower, much like a dimmer switch on a light bulb, for example. The power level can change on it, and that's what I tend to pick up on. So with regards to dealing with cats, their vibrational level can change and vary, but it's different than humans is. So in order to talk to them, you really have to open up the heart space and clear your mind in order to communicate with them. Anybody can do that, though. You don't have to be some psychically gifted person to do it. I have covered that topic in the past as well. on the how-tos to do so. And I have actually tried it from that technique, and it worked. So I just kind of expanded on it from there myself. But so let's look at some of the other spiritual attributes that cats can have. So cats are seen by a lot of spiritual people as having spiritual attributes attached to them. So let's look at that. So it said that as a cat grows, so does its energy field. And I suppose that could be said for any species of beings on the planet, that we really, as we get bigger, well, we have a bigger container for said energy. The energy doesn't know a size and shape in that way. So it's the first time I've heard that theory of it, that as they grow, their energy field grows. But let's go with that. So it's also thought that the older that a cat gets, the bigger the energy field is as well. So it changes with age and size. Who would be calling me now? Sorry, sorry about that, guys. I didn't even know my phone was turned on. So as they age and grow, their energy field is said to change. So over time, it's thought that they also grow in spiritual power and capability. Oh, you are on both? Oh, of course you are, because you have two screens. And finally got comments in. Sorry, Marianne, if you're having any difficulty. Again, I understand it's a new way for you guys to connect, to see the show. But it'll send it out worldwide, radio, etc. So all good things. Voicemail must be. So they're said to be able to also see spirits. Say if one comes into your environment, all animals are supposed to be able to sense that. Those of us who are pet owners can attest that at any given time we see our animals stopping and staring at a random spot on the wall and just don't move, and they're like frozen or following something moving that we can't see. So it's thought that they are picking up on perhaps the spirit in your environment. Okay, Karen, thanks for popping in, hon. I appreciate it. And it's also, they're said to be able to communicate with the spirits who might be in the environment. Yeah, change is never easy, Sandy. Nobody likes to change, but it's kind of a necessary thing sometimes. Well, I didn't have to come over here, of course, but I wanted to bring you guys with me if I was going to switch and move things around. So they're also thought to perhaps see fairies around outside, and many of us who've watched cats outside, they'll suddenly pounce on something that we don't see, that isn't there to our eyes. They're randomly chasing something or leaping in the air and kind of coming down on something. And, not that I like the thought of if there are fairies in the environment that they're being harmed by a cat. Of course not. But since they can see them and chase them. Thank you, Jan. I appreciate it. Love to you, lady. So, okay. It's also said that spiritual people who are spiritually minded, no matter what your foundation of beliefs are, and that's also one thing, as an aside, that I tend to promote amongst anybody, no matter what your foundation of beliefs are, you can still be a spiritual person. It doesn't matter what your background is. It's being spiritual is about learning. There's still more to learn. Essentially, there is still more out there, and to not be afraid to do that, and to not close yourself in a little box where you have blinders on to all else except for perhaps what you may have gotten taught as a child regarding your foundation of beliefs. Keep reading, keep researching, keep learning and growing, and through that process, and to understand you don't have to be in a specific building once a week in order to be following your foundation of beliefs, whatever they may be. That there's more out there, and it's more accepting of others' belief systems too, to where you don't look at your own foundation of beliefs as being the only right way that is possible to exist. It's that they all kind of lead to the same place. No matter how you get there through different paths, kind of leads to the same place on the other side. So it's thought that spiritual people tend to attract cats. Now, that said, many spiritual people, now we all have this gift. It's not something unique to certain individuals. I think humans in general are empathic. And what that all that means really is that you're able to sense the emotional state that other people are in. You can tell if someone's lying. Some are better at it than others, and others don't work at it at all. So it's just kind of a, yeah, I can do this, but I didn't know there was a name for it. For some, it's quite debilitating where it's overwhelming and they can't leave their homes, which is an extreme. And perhaps sometime we will do a updated show on how to handle things if you are a powerful empath. But it's about picking up the energies of that. And animals seem to sense when you are in tune with that, and they find you when knowing that and trusting that you will help them if they need help, whether it's taking them in off the streets, protecting them, giving them medical care, feeding them, whatever you're able to do for them, that you're a safe person who won't harm them. They seem to sense that. So we attract cats. They just find us. And understand that it's more about like an organic connection, again, to energy, to your internal, that little voice inside of you is what is giving you that sensing and of people's emotional states. And again, you can tell if someone's lying. You can kind of vibe out a room when you walk into it. You can pick up if someone's upset, even if they're not in front of you, at a distance. When you're really close to somebody, you can pick up on, someone's having a rough time of it or in a bad mood or upset at a distance. You just feel it. You call them, and sure enough, something terrible might be going on in their personal life, and they really needed to talk to you. And wonder, oh, how did you know? Well, I just sensed it. You probably do, Sandy. She says, I swear I hear my cat talking to me in my head. And that's the thing with a lot of that stuff. We dismiss it. And I'm just crazy. I'm telling myself what I want to hear. And it's really about trusting what you get coming in, and not to question, oh, am I crazy? Because if you're with it enough to ask yourself, are you crazy? You're probably not. You could be, but probably not. So, a cat's alleged superpowers, we'll call it, they tend to have an increased intuition. They can sense energy of a rising or a lowering of energetic fields, like we already mentioned, but they can pick up on those changes. And also, like, how a person is themselves. Like, so say somebody comes by and visits you, you have a cat, and for some people who may seem fine to you, but the cat bolts and hides and won't come out until they're after they're gone. We write it off as, oh, they're just, being skittish, whatever. But stop and think, maybe they're sensing there's something about them that's kind of a red flag, and they don't like what they're picking up, so they stay out of the way of that person until they're out of your space. And maybe that's something to pay more attention to rather than just dismissing it that they're being skittish. And by the same token, they can come out and be all over somebody who is a safe person and energetically a good person who has no red flags. They won't leave that poor person alone during a visit where they're, rubbing up against their legs, they're headbutting, all the friendly cat behaviors you tend to see when a cat accepts you. Again, stuff to listen to, read the body language. Some other gifts that cats can have is that there can be healing within their purr. Now, anybody who has ever listened to the motor run on a cat, it is very calming and soothing and relaxing. It's known to lower blood pressure, heart rate, calm you down if you're upset or under a lot of stress. They're also often have been recent times used as therapeutic animals towards those who may be on, say, the Marianne calls herself an animal magnet, exactly. For many kids who may be on the autism spectrum, for example, or have other disabilities, cats can be an emotional support animal for them because they sense when they're getting upset and will help de-escalate them. they picked up on seizures and things before. There's miraculous stories of cats warning a family of impending doom with fires, or like a fire in a home, waking everybody up, to natural disasters and things too. So, they do out of their way. Veronica's saying she has cats, 2 cats, and they help her so much. Exactly. And not everybody likes cats, and that's okay. If you're more of a dog person, or you don't like animals in general, that's all right too. It's just those who are cats, we recognize these attributes in our own cats, and we've learned to kind of align ourselves energetically with them to pick up on these subtle cues they give us. Welcome back, Karen. Back-ish. So again, it's physically relaxing to listen to a cat purr, to be around them when they're just going and, just motoring it to fall asleep. I mean, it helps me fall asleep if I have a really strong cat purring. So it's not uncommon for people who have lost a beloved cat to get an energetic visit from them now and again. Many people report having visitation dreams or experiences with a cat after they've crossed over, for whatever reason they've crossed over. Erin is saying absolutely. Oh my gosh, cat's purr is so amazing. I'll just lay down with my head on my cat's belly listening to him purr. And I'm surprised the skunk doesn't like bite you in the head or something for laying on his belly, but hey, if he lets you, absolutely. Most cats, you either get a cat who loves belly rubs and enjoys it, or absolutely freaks out and hates it. So I wanted to share a couple of stories I've had of experiences of what I perceive to be visitations from cats I lost. Now, it always seems to be near when, not long after they've died, but one of them was actually, well, one was right after, one was, gosh, it had almost been a year when it happened. Karen's saying she gets visits from hers. Aaron's saying his cat will let him for a little while. Well, it's good. Not getting bit in the head would be bad. So with one of the cats I had, this cat was my daughter's cat. She'd always been very jealous of how animals always vibe to me, and I would try to teach her how to at least read their body language. She'd kind of let it go over her head, and of course, what does mom know? And so I had gotten a cat for her and completely did a hands-off approach with it, to where I said, if you're going to do this, you got to commit to doing it. You be the one to feed him. You get to be the one to clean the litter box. You be the one to pay attention to him when he needs attention. All these, things that go with being a pet parent, right? And so she agreed, and it happened. They bonded, and whilst he accepted me as part of the environment, he didn't really he wasn't what I would call my cat. Karen says she feels her cat rubbing against his leg. Yeah. Veronica says, I heard they can reincarnate within 90 days of their passing. I'm not so sure that it happens that, there's a set time for it. From my understanding, it's more of their choosing. Sometimes they can choose to stay on the other side for a chunk of time. There's not really, because they don't measure time the same way as we do here on the 3D realm. So on the other side, we're the only ones, humans are, that measure time like we do, of having a set straight timeline we follow. It's very fluid on the other side. So there probably wouldn't be a 90-day mark for it, but yeah, I mean, it would be a choice, of course. I would think that they would have that choice when to choose to come back, when not to. But yeah, I do believe they do. And I also believe that they help any other animals, like new animals you might get down the line, to help them to learn how to work with you better. Because, whether it's passing on memories or talking to them perhaps even in dream time, because animals dream too. That's been scientifically proven. And so coming to them in dream time and explaining how you work best and how to help you as a human. And I do think that sometimes certain animals cross our paths to help us grow, heal, etc. And some can follow you, I think, lifetime to lifetime, to relink up with you to kind of continue following you on your journey, and that you just have that kind of a connection every bit as much as a human can. So this cat Jellicle. So my aunt had a cat. Now she wasn't a great animal person, or one who really should probably have animals in that way. And to her, they were just animals. They were not really part of the family. And she had gotten a kitten into the home, and I guess it got hit by a car when it was really tiny still. It disappeared for like 3 days. It got a head injury. From that point forward, he had brain damage and would have been considered mentally retarded if he had been evaluated. He was delayed and slow after that, to where his sole goal was to be loved, cuddled, and paid attention to, and have a warm place to lay. The rest he could care less about. He wasn't jumpy. He wasn't that kind of a cat. He just wanted attention and to be snuggled, which my daughter, of course, loved a cat that was willing to do that with her. And so when there came a point where my aunt was going to move, and she just didn't want the cat anymore, so she was going to have him put down. And so my daughter was more familiar with the cat than I was. She came to me and she was all upset and, begging me to allow us to adopt him and to save his life. He was older by that point, but I said, well, sure, if we can give him a forever home to live out his days, why not? What's one more? So we did. We took him in, but her cat, Jellicle, became very jealous of the new one, and he completely kind of exiled my daughter as far as he was concerned, and he really became my cat during that time. And then my daughter, grew up even after we renamed him Mr. Mao. After Mr. Mao crossed over and it was his time, she ended up finishing growing up and moving away to college. Jellicle stayed really my cat at that point. And he used to do this thing where he would come racing into my room. I had a vanity stool on the other side of my room, opposite of, like straight ahead of my bed, that was antique, and it was wooden. And any amount of pressure applied to this, of any weight, didn't matter like how much or how little, this thing would creak. And the cats were notorious. They'd race in, jump up there, look around, see where they wanted to go, and then head for the bed typically. And so, there were other times where I would just hear the bench creak and nothing would be there to my eyes. So I got to learn that was probably them popping in to say hi. And so Jellicle would run in there, jump on the bench, see me on the bed, come tearing up at me, and then fall over on my arm, belly up, and want his belly rubbed. And he would do this thing of kind of stretching his arms over his head, staring around upside down. He was a black and white tuxedo cat, which by my experience, they're a little bit spacey. Black tuxedos, colored cats are. They're very sweet cats and loving, but they're just kind of spacey, I guess would be a kind word to call it. And he would just stay that way for a good half hour, letting you rub his belly, and so I called it the Buddha belly pose, because he'd be belly up, and as he got older, he put on a little bit of weight, and so he had a good sized belly that would be there, and he would just be plopped over in my arm like a baby. And after he ended up getting hit by a car, and I was very upset by that. My daughter was away from college. And again, by this time, he had been my cat for at least a few years at that point. But he had been in my house for, a good 13 years. So he was part of the family. And this probably a couple hours after we found out the news that he had died, all of a sudden, I would swear in any court of law, stack of whatever anybody gave me, that I experienced this. I felt the weight on me of when Jellicle used to race up on me and flop over and have his belly rubbed. And I just was like, I didn't know what to do. I just was like, oh my God, like, is he Jellicle? It probably lasted for a good 30 to 45 seconds. and then just disappeared. And to this day, I would still say it was him finally accepting, because his death was so sudden, that he finally accepted that he had crossed over and was saying goodbye. I don't know how else to interpret it. It was the only physical experience to that level I've ever had with an animal before. And of course, I was just weeping afterward, but grateful for the gift of that experience. Let's see, Veronica says that her cats are in her dreams, and they sometimes warn her too in dreams. Nice. Karen says, I called a possum over by accident, thought it was my neighbor's cat. It's all animals. Yes, all animals are drawn to you if you're an empath. Sandy said that explains her daughter. She has a daughter named Linda. She has a cat named Salem. Yep. Erin says, I get really sad when driving down the road and seeing animals laying on it. Yeah, again, we are able to pick up on the energies of, we take on the emotions of others, and it's very difficult to stay separated from it, to observe but not take it on. It requires a little bit of practice with shielding and blocking to manage it to where it doesn't demolish you as much, but no, sure, you still feel it and take notice of it. So the other cat experimentation thing. So I had a black cat. Her name was Midnight. She was half wild. My daughter talked me into adopting her during a yard sale day thing our town was having, someone giving them away. And so I said, we don't need one more cat. It was supposed to be her cat, but this cat absolutely didn't like her at all. And she didn't have patience. Nobody else in the house had patience to work with her besides me. So whilst, yes, she might turn and latch into me out of, having enough, like I said, kind of, I think it's like a sensory overload thing for them. And so she would, if you're petting her, she'd be sweet and purring 1 second and kind of bite you or nab you the next second or attack your hand and then run. But she always would come back and approach slowly and I'm sorry type of look on her face, and then be very sweet and gentle again. So I was the only one who had the patience to work with that. And my house where I lived for about 16 years, at the bottom of my hill was a main state highway road that ran in front of the house. And I didn't want the animals outside when we moved there, but it ended up happening. And most of them would stay away from the road, but not all were smart enough to. And we lost Midnight to the road as well. Now, she was a very bright cat, and she loved to play. She actually taught herself how to play fetch with me. She'd go get toys and bring them back to me for a good half hour straight of just over and over and over of doing it. Much like a dog. Maybe she thought she was a dog. I'm not sure. But so she discovered a new trick her last summer with me. So my bedroom in that house, it was a ranch style house. The garage was underneath the house. So my bedroom was above the garage, and there was a little outcropping roof over top of the garage to prevent any ice buildup in bad weather, whatever. And oh, hi, Nancy. I'm glad you can finally see comments, and welcome to the show. And hi, everybody else who's come in. And I appreciate you taking the extra steps to, first time out of the gate to get logged in from Facebook land. So the house was built into a hill. So there were hillsides on either side of the garage. So she would, from the hillside, I don't know how she could make this jump because it was pretty high up, up to the rooftop over the garage. And then from there, I would guess 8-10 feet up to the windowsill. She did it. And then she would startle the crap out of me every time, sitting in my window, and I would just all of a sudden hear a really loud meow, and like she wanted to be let in through the window rather than walking around to the door like a typical cat would. And after she died, I wasn't even thinking about it, but I heard the meow at my window. And by then I'd been used to her doing it. So it was kind of all right, hang on, Midnight, I'm coming. And you'd have to put the window and the screen up to let her come in. And I did all of that before it dawned on me, wait a second, she's not here anymore. And of course there was nobody there to see, but I heard the meow, and I can't explain it otherwise. It was quite loud. Well, it sounded just like she used to do it. There's no other rational explanation to fit it. I wasn't hearing things. I was in the middle of something else when I all of a sudden heard her, yowling at me at the window to come in. So there's no other way to me to interpret that than it was just kind of popping in and saying, hey, just checking in, stopping by to say hi. And after that, there was nothing else. It never happened again, just that one time. So, they can do that spiritually speaking, and just, again, popping in to say hi. And forgive me, I'm going to switch power cords to my other tablet because the battery runs down faster in this one than on the one I'm on screen for, on camera for, so we don't lose the Facebook feed. So it is a thing where cats have, it said that they do have the ability to do that. Karen's saying it varies on how much she picks up on getting sad seeing an animal on the side of the road. And sure, you can get desensitized to it, of course, and depending on your own mood at the time you see it. So, let's see. So again, it is thought that they are in touch more with the spiritual world, perhaps, than some animals are. I don't think it's limited to cats. I think it's across the board that animals in general, they maintain that connection to the other side, and they can come back and visit every bit as much as our loved ones can. And a lot of times when I'm doing readings as a psychic medium, I get asked to do those kinds of readings where people can ask me to contact a loved one of theirs to bring them through to talk to. And I think it's the same thing. They always tell me that they're around all the time. They pop in for visits. They don't miss special events. They hear us when we speak to them. So why can't our animals also do the same? Karen says, driving backwards to Maine away from civilization, I saw it a lot, found some neat skulls that way. I personally am not a fan of, once a animal or person has died and their remains. Thank you, Marianne. She's apologizing for my losses. I mean, a lot, as someone who takes in animals as part of your family, you have to accept the fact that their lifespan is shorter than ours, and they're not going to live to be 80, 90 years old. And that's part of the knowing when you take them on, that hey, their lifespan's shorter. And I think that it's because they don't have as many lessons to learn here as we do. They don't bumble through it quite the same. Now, animals can have the same mental health issues and physical issues and stuff that we as humans have, but they do have that higher sensing, it seems, compared to some animals. It is fun to channel them, yes. Karen's saying moose, bear, deer, etc. Yeah, well, I mean, I used to live up in Maine, so I can agree with that. So it isn't uncommon to have a visitation from any animal that crossed over, even not just cats. It's not limited to just cats, but it's common with cats. People report about that a lot. So their sixth senses are also exceptional, both physically and spiritually too. They go higher than ours, as many animals do. They hear more, they see more, and indifferently than what we do, different spectrums than what we can, higher above ours and lower than what we can see and hear. So as far as their hearing, cats are thought to hear 5 times more stronger than we can. And thus it's said that they can also tune into hearing the vibrations of perhaps hearing a soul being in your environment, a spirit, ghost, whatever title you choose to call it. I say spirit or soul being, but that's me. That they can hear them if they're speaking in their environment, and see them if they're in your environment, and interact with them. And in fact, when I've been doing readings, I do hear a lot of people whose loved ones may have animals. They'll give that as a sign of, pay attention. If they start acting weird, yeah, that means I'm there, or I'm playing with them, or I'm messing with them intentionally in some cases, just to get a rise out of them, so you'll take notice. Or if someone's not an animal person and they come back to visit, they may intentionally mess with an animal just to I guess some people find that funny to watch an animal freak out, but not one of them. Exactly, Nancy. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the reason why, personally. But um, and so it's also thought that they can hear them moving around again near your environment, in your environment, hear them talking, or pick up a higher frequencies of them that they tend are said to that soul beings are said to reside on compared to us. The second, okay, Aaron. The second is eyesight, and they only need 1/16th, 1/16th of the light that we do to see by. I mean, even on camera here, I have a huge overhead ceiling fan light lighting up the room. I've got my nightstand light on. Yes, I'm in my bedroom, and in order to make it bright enough to have you guys see me on camera without looking too shadowy. So, but they don't need that much. 1/16th of the amount of light we need in order to see by. And that's so, and hence they do see much better at night than what we can as well. But they also have a much wider range of vision as far as like how high and how the spectrum of light that they can see into. Dogs have the same capabilities, and I'm sure other animals do too, that they can see more the other ranges of the light that we can't, our human eyes can't pick up. Animals can do that. So what else is residing in those, that light spectrum that we can't see? To me, unless someone can prove something doesn't exist empirically, then I always say, why not? Why can't it exist? When even it may seem impossible. Well, maybe we need to start thinking and believing in the impossible more. Just a thought. So they do a better night vision. They do see color, as whereas before it was thought that they only saw in black and white, which is not true. It's been found more recently that yes, they do see in color, but they see it a little bit differently than how we perceive colors. Lonnie, who is a huge cat person, I know. I always see her picture she posts. She said, love my kitties. I sometimes see my Kiko walking around my apartment or feel his headbutts on my knee. Oh, that's a beautiful reminder that they're around you, right? So they may see in a lower or higher spectrums than we can. Um, they don't see all of the shades like we do, or some of the colors as vibrantly as we do, but it's within the shade variant. So just like if you took say you're editing a picture or something, for example, and you move the little bar to over to get a slightly different shade than the main color of a shade, either making it lighter or darker or more grayscale, you know, they pick up on, say, something that might be really bright, perhaps like my tapestry behind me. You know, we see that as a very brightly colored object. So they may see some of those colors being a bit more muted or a bit more grayish than what the actual color is, but they still can see in color. But again, because they can see in further on either side of the spectrum than what we can see, I wonder what else they're viewing. Just a thought to think about. The third and fourth sense that they can have, of course, smell and taste. Those really aren't spiritual helpers, I don't think, as far as most animals go, but so going over to touch, now they have very sensitive nerve sensors in their paws, and they're able to sense small vibrational changes. Now that can include anything from, say, tremors when an earthquake is coming. They can pick up on that long before we do. As some say that too, that when, say, an earthquake or something is going to happen in your area, that there's like a smell of ozone or something that shifts in the air as well. All animals can pick up on that, and hence warning us something is going to happen and it's going to be bigger. But that aside, like, you know, if they're able to pick up on vibrations with the pads of their feet, well, if energy puts out can be measured by vibration, then wouldn't it serve to say, even though it's thought of to be a physical sense, that there couldn't be a higher energetic vibration that they're picking up with it as well? Again, I say, why not? Some scientists think that it's because of their ability to sense vibrations before we do, and others say that it comes from more of a knowing that those things are going to happen, whether it's a natural disaster, what have you. That Lonnie says playing high frequency music, 520 hertz, 28 hertz, helps them so much. Yeah, there are, and that's been, music therapy. That they are discovering the value of having the different megahertz set to different levels for energetic stuff, and it promotes different responses within us humans. And because they're so much like us, well, wouldn't it serve to say would have an impact on them too? Marianne says, yes, we had tornadoes coming in our area, on our farm, and animals went crazy. Karen's saying 10 hertz. What about 10 hertz? So yeah, animals can pick up on all that stuff as much as, before we can, but cats, it's spiritual people tend to wonder if it's not coming from a place of more like knowing something's coming versus that it's they can feel it just by physically in vibrations that way. It comes into question too of cats being spiritual guardians. Can they be spiritual guardians? Well, let's talk about that. They can pick up on, changes in our physicality, our body language, our emotions. We talked about that one already. So isn't it then possible that maybe, just maybe, that they are there or sent to us by somebody else or guided to us to help us in the physical realm, that they're here for a purpose, to help heal us? I know. Hi, Faith. How you doing, sis? In a lot of cases that has happened during my lifetime, and as a psychic medium with my dog, Jake, so before where I live now, I lived on 5.5 acres of woods up against a mountainside in central New York, which is considered upstate New York, which is between the Adirondacks and Catskill Mountains. And so woods on all sides of my house except for the roadside, and that was it. And it was a limited view of the road you had because of the woods. So, if you didn't typically see Dalmatians anywhere near there unless perhaps being dropped off. And that's how he found me. My daughter had come running into me. Oh my God, Mom, there's a Dalmatian in our woods. And I'm like, okay. Glanced out the window, of course, didn't see him. And she's like, I'm not lying, as most dramatic children can do. And I said, I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just saying I don't see it. And really, that would be quite unusual to see a Dalmatian in one's woods. But I'll keep an eye out. And then maybe 2 weeks later, I did see him. And he was running with another dog, but I do firmly believe that he was dropped off in the middle of nowhere, probably. But I think he was led to me, and I had somebody close to me who was crossed over say, yes, they thought that we needed each other, and so they led him to me. And he was neglected and abused when he came to me. He was severely underweight, and he's got issues because of his past, and he's spoiled rotten now. And again, he's an old guy now, but that's bringing its own set of issues in. But his clock's winding down. I get it. But yes, he's been a huge value to my life over the last almost 12 years now that he's been with me. I wouldn't trade it in for nothing, as much as he can frustrate the crap out of me some days, because of his senior moments, etc. Behavioral changes that come with age. But then again, can't the same be said about our own elderly, that we can lose patience with them because of that? But at the same time, you have to remind yourself it's more important during those times to keep patience with them, and there are lessons within those experiences on their own as well. So people are all they're talking about my animals. To them, for those who are new to me, they're like the mascots for this show. I've been doing this show on Facebook for 2 years now, just over 2 year mark. From 2 years was in fall, and or was in the fall, was the 2-year anniversary of the show. So they're the mascots for the show. Everybody knows my name and loves them to pieces. So who's leaving? Oh, Karen's stepping up again. Gotcha, Karen. So could they be led to us and or sent to us by higher realm beings, whatever you want to say, to help us when we need them, as every bit as much as they may need us to help them heal? Well, sometimes we need healing too, to help us over a trauma we had, perhaps, to help bring us comfort in our time of need, to help us whether it's physical healing even, that they can help with that. So yes, I do believe in that being a thing with cats and all animals, actually. Sandy's saying they are, and we love them, absolutely. So I know that, like, I mean, if you guys choose to call in for the show at this point, you can. If you have any discussion questions you have about the topic, you're welcome to. The live call-in number is area code 929. You have to dial 1 first, of course. 436-2866. The meeting ID number is 522-657-2748, and you enter it when you get prompted to enter it. And how they say it, they'll tell you. It's pretty easy peasy. Do it all the time with the network myself if I'm not on the show, but I'm asked to come into it to speak on something. So if anybody has anything they further want to add to the topic or questions about it, by all means, give a call in and we'll talk about it. Otherwise, another option is, and of course I can bring up any comments anybody has in my Facebook group, Willows Bend, of the topic itself or anything further. Now, what we typically do in the group is, and I still will continue the practice because, they're my tribe and family in there at this point. We vote on the topic. Now, if anybody who is listening through or watching through Global Enlightenment Radio Network, then you're welcome, to get a hold of us if you have a topic you'd like to suggest that I cover. So basically, I do majority rules. So we vote on each topic. The majority gets chosen for the following week. I go research it and I present it the next week. So that is an option for our listeners and viewers on the Gorton Network. And I will also go by the say-so and take the votes of those in my group too. And for any remaining time we have after we pick next week's topic, so it also gives you a heads up on air to the network what I'm going to be covering next week. So my schedule on here, as the newest member of the network joining in, is on Tuesdays. I will be in here from 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, Erin. We love you as well, and you're just as awesome, sweetie. We do love our animals, absolutely. And so on Thursdays, I will be coming back in on the Global Enlightenment Radio Network to do live readings, and people are welcome to call in and get a reading from me during that time. So basically, I'll be on for 3 hours each slot, and if we happen to, some nights the topic is a big topic, and sometimes I have to even do a part 2 of a certain topic because it's huge, and there's really no way to present it comprehensively to cover all of it without shortchanging it, if you know what I mean. Like, I want to do a topic justice, and I'm very thorough in my research. So in order to do that, sometimes we do a part 2 on a topic to make sure it's all covered. But if 3 hours isn't enough, then during this show on Tuesdays, then I will switch over to do readings for my remaining time. If that's something that if anyone's interested in, you're welcome to either ask for one in my Facebook group or to call in on, again, the number for live call-ins. Hi, Stacy. How are you, sis? Is area code 929-436-2866. And the meeting ID number is 522-657, 2748. And so if you're interested in the reading and are currently listening out there, by all means, give a shout out, and I'm happy to do that for you. So the topics we have pending for next week on the table are Thunderbirds was a new topic that was suggested that we haven't covered yet. The Russian Yeti conspiracy, the difference between oracle cards and tarot cards. I, for one, use oracle cards during my readings. I've never really vibed towards tarot cards. Personal choice. There's nothing wrong or better than from one to the other, but there is a difference in how they work and are used. And also the Rougarou, which is a alleged mythical beast that so someone has suggested that as a show topic. And if anybody else in chat or otherwise has a suggestion to add to the list, but that's all we got on the list right now is those 4 topics. So I'll let my Facebook group join and take votes as always. And again, for those for the network who might be discovering me for the first time, I can be found on Facebook you can private message me under Donna Hawk Who Walks the Land. Now the Hawk Who Walks the Land is all one run-on word because Facebook doesn't let you separate it all out. They call it to say it's too loud. Gorton. So Donna Hawk Who Walks the Land is one word. Gorton is my last name, Gorton, and I can be messaged through Messenger. I have a page called Beyond the Veil, where I do readings and so forth. And then I have my Willows Bend group that's under the Willows Bend, and anyone's welcome to join that. Yes, I got rules, of course. I don't like drama in there. I don't like a bunch of BS. There's no judgmental stuff. No one's views are better than anyone else's. As far as how I respect everybody. And I expect my members to do the same. Don't be a jerk to other people. It's not complicated. It's pretty easy peasy. Thank you, Erin. So at any rate, we can add the Jersey Devil to the topic list to vote on. Write that down. Jersey Devil. Got it. So votes are coming in. We have, and if anyone happens to call in, I'm sure, Katie will let me know, or Patch to call through for me if she chooses to. Let's see. Sorry, I'm reading my comments on Facebook. So we got Thunderbirds. Aaron says he guesses he'll go with Thunderbirds. Brenda says Rougarou. What about some of the topics we talked about yesterday? Which one specifically, Stace? Marianne says the Rougarou. So we talked about a lot of things yesterday. So what specifically, like the validity of readers, or listening to red flags, like more of the psychological type of aspect? Jennifer asks for werewolves or Rougarou. We can add werewolves to it too. Each has their own separate, myths and legends to them. And again, unless the way I view them, for those who are newer to me, unless I have proof saying they empirically can't exist or don't exist. I mean, of course, science can say, oh, they can't exist, but they don't have anything to back up the can't part. So until they can show me evidence that nope, this is why, and here's the reasoning other than just following logic, then, just like they want hardcore evidence from the paranormal, supernatural, mystical, spiritual community that our side of things exists, well, it's fair. Turnabout's fair play, right? So then I say, why can't it exist? So let's see. Mariana got hers. Lonnie says the Rougarou. Nancy says Rougarou. Annette's watching. Hi, sweetheart. And so, yeah, just because I haven't personally seen something, there are worldwide reports of people who claim to have seen those and experienced them on some level. So who might just say they're lying, or they didn't see that, or they're hallucinating it, or whatever. I mean, from YT Neely's Worldwide Publishing. Okay, I got a hard one for you, Atlantis. um, yeah, I guess we can. I mean, there was a time where I covered Atlantis and Lemuria together. We'd actually just finished a couple shows on them of the combined topic with Talos, but it was quite a while ago when I covered the Lemuria and Atlantis topic. I mean, for anybody who is still with me from the very beginning of the group, you'll remember that show. But for those who are new to me, well, obviously you didn't get to experience that show. And most of my Facebook members, they'll say, yeah, we care. Go ahead, do it again. That's fine. Getting a refresher course is fine. So they'll go with it. So yes, I can put Atlantis on there. And yeah, I understand, and that it's a different new way to connect and see me live, but you guys are still seeing me live. It's just through a different way to get to me is all. So Atlantis also. Well, that just jumped our 4 topics on the table up a few. So speak now or forever hold your peace. Ancient Egypt, says Stacy. Oops, I'm writing your name down, Stacy. Ancient Egypt. Got it. Sandy says she remembers. There are a lot of comments coming through to YouTube. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't be in both places simultaneously without a third device to monitor the YouTube chat. But if you're able to jump back and forth and you're doing it, thank you. I appreciate you. Gerald says Dogman. We can do that. I am pretty familiar with the gist of most of those beings and a lot of the backstory and lore associated with them. But of course, I still go and research it, and I present it from all sides of what does science think, what does religion think, what do different religions think about a topic. And then from there, I still go further with it to, I'll intersperse my own opinions, but just my own experiences. Anything else? Oh, wow. Jennifer's got a whole bunch of them. Okay. So let's see. Let's put it over here. So Jennifer also suggests Bigfoot. Well, whether he's real or not, I mean, I always leave that up to the individual to choose to know whether they're real. Or she's saying that she's saying they're all real, not topics. Okay. Gotcha. I went to write them down. Mary Ann says Dogman also sounds interesting. Lonnie says dragons. We haven't ever covered dragons. I do remember that. Chris Stokes says Rougarou. Let's see. Well, I can review them again. So we have Thunderbirds, the Russian Yeti conspiracy, the differences between tarot and oracle cards, the Rougarou, the Jersey Devil, werewolves, dragons, Atlantis, ancient Egypt, or Dogman. We've had more topics on the table before, and you guys at my Facebook group, there'll be people when they can't choose, they'll throw out 2 or 3 things they're interested in, but I always still go with majority vote rules. So as far as you guys go, speak now or hold your peace. I can go back and perhaps see the YouTube comments, when the show ends. Well, I don't know if I can access them or not after the show ends, because I know a lot of times the chat can get closed. So I don't know if I can still view them then at that point. But, and I apologize to any YouTube viewers that I don't have a way to see both chats for Facebook and YouTube. I know a lot of people choose to view on YouTube instead of Facebook. Unfortunately, I only have 2 devices I can use, and I'm on one tablet, which is my main tablet I actively use, and the other is my older tablet. So can only kind of be in both places at once. Well, the one is obviously showing me on camera, right? So if those are the main votes we have, then I guess it looks like next week the Rougarou topic will be, I'll wait a second more to see if anybody else has a vote to throw in there. And yeah, as far as Aaron's comment from Jennifer, yeah, I do. I think most of those, I look at those as interdimensional beings as far as Bigfoot, mermaids, gnomes, fairies, dragons, all that stuff. Yeah, I think that they are from different dimensions, but they still exist. Science says there is an unlimited number of different dimensions out there, and yet we don't know a clue about them scientifically. So who's to say that those aren't residing there? Um, yet another Bigfoot creature. Yes, there are sightings and experiences on every continent. There absolutely is. I speak now and I say I will hold my peace. Exactly. And that's teasing Erin, saying she'll believe it when she sees it. Daryl says star beings, Edgar Casey, him and his information. Well, Daryl, a while ago, during my first year of the show, I actually did bring through Edgar Casey, and the audience got to ask him questions during that show. That was a huge show. Oh my gosh. I want to say on Facebook alone, I had over 2,000 views, and that was fairly early into my show, and the group wasn't significantly big yet, but yeah, there was a lot of views on that. But yeah, I can add star beings on there. And, even though, again, a lot of my Facebook group has already experienced a topic, doesn't mean I can't represent it, because you all, from the new platform's perspective of the Gurn platform, you haven't had me cover that for you guys yet. So I have to take that into consideration, and obviously do and will. But yeah, everyone in my Facebook chat is commenting that was an awesome show, and it was interesting. So there have been those that I brought through during my live shows, on a certain different beings throughout, depending on the topic. If they're willing to talk to me, I'm willing to bring them through. Stacy says maybe a recap of Seth Speaks or Edgar Casey. Yeah, I would check with them first to see if they would be willing to come through again for me, since it's a newer, a bigger audience to come through for. But yeah, I wouldn't have any issue doing it. And I know there's a lot of backlash regarding the being known as Seth, as in his original stuff when he came through back in the 70s. He said he would never channel through another person again. But does that mean that he actually, they can change their minds as much as we can if they feel like it's needed to be heard or known again, the message to be brought through to a new generation? Well, sure, why can't they? So, whoops, not Gacy, Donna, goodness. Just taking the notes. J. Edgar Hoover. It's another suggestion. So yeah, as long as they're willing to talk to me and come through, then I am happy to do it. It's not that hard for me to do it. Marianne's saying, oh yeah, Seth Speaks. Yeah. The Seth Speaks book is available in audiobook format on YouTube for free, but I gotta say, the voice that they chose to narrate it is a computerized voice, and they used some older British gentleman to narrate it. I don't know who it was, but he was hard to listen to. It was very boring and dry. He messed up a lot of simple words throughout the text, and I could only do it for shorter periods to get through the whole thing. But I definitely don't ever regret doing it. It's, to me, bringing through a famous person or being is no different than talking to any soul being who's out there is willing to. They're just people too. Daryl says, oh, I have a great topic where fantasy and facts collide. TV topics of past actually present in today's world. This topic includes objects, concepts, and ideas that eventually become reality. So are you talking about, Daryl, like the idea of tulpas, which a tulpa, for those who are not familiar with that, is focused thought and concentration. It's been proven that through experiments that you can create a separate, like, a thing to happen or to come into existence. It's never been alive. It's not like it's a ancient being from beyond or something. It is a new energetic form. Are you talking about tulpas? Yes, he's saying yes. Okay. Ross Peterson. I'm not familiar with Ross Peterson, but I can put it down there. Ross Peterson, tulpas. Yeah, tulpas is an interesting topic because it does have relevance today with, all those legends and the urban legends on like Slender Man and all of them out there that, yeah, I think that they've been evolved into tulpas. Zozo is another one. Do I think that Zozo is a demon? No, I think it's a tulpa from people focusing their concentration on it and energetically has created it. Yes, it can come through Ouija boards, but it's just like Edgar Casey. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with his name, Stacy, so she's meaning Ross Peterson is just like Edgar Casey, is what she's referencing. So yeah, we got them all on the list, and we can definitely, if it's a topic I've already covered over the last 2 years, we certainly can, re-explore it again because there's a new audience to explore it with. And there may, if we do something like that, there's no reason where we couldn't open up the phone lines and take calls on those to discuss them openly. Do I ever think Godzilla will ever become a real creature? Who's to say Godzilla is not a real creature already, Daryl? Ah. I will replace my pet for a Godzilla. Yeah, I think that might cause a little chaos in the home environment. I'm just saying, but got another topic. What about D's? In what way, Aaron? That's what I'm saying. Who's to say Godzilla isn't real, Karen? Right, everybody in my chat saying Godzilla's not real with, the crying emoji. Please explain, Aaron, what you mean by D's. D-E-E-Z? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Deets nuts? Oh, Deets nuts. You forgot the T in there. It's like D's, what? Yeah, there's a T in there. D-E-E-T-Z. What about them? I mean, I'm sure there's a joke residing in there, knowing you. See, I know my Aaron. Jet said he would like Edgar Casey or Seth Speaks again. Okay. Well, I'll put him down as votes. And for those who are new to me, so I have most of an entire family who's through my group has kind of adopted me in. So there's 3 different siblings who follow me, and their parents both do as well. And often we'll have input into my show on Facebook. I could have swore there was a T in there. Okay, it's a meme joke. Well, how is everybody going to know? No, you didn't have to do it. So for those who are new to me again, Aaron in my group, he's a jokester and he gets silly sometimes and you don't know it till he springs it on you. So forgiveness for that one. Godzilla is real, says Daryl. Check out Fukushima Gone Wild. I don't even know if I want, it sounds like a porno, Daryl. Just saying. Just saying. So we got a whole host of it. Yeah, if you are watching, James and Brenda McManus, lots of love to you and thank you. No, it's the nuclear disaster. Oh, okay. I thought it sounded like some porno or something. The Gone Wild part, I think, is where I thought that. So as far as number of votes go, yeah, I figured it would be kind of complicated for them to understand how to connect to it, and that's okay. So as far as actual votes go, the Rougarou wins for this coming week, zombie apocalypse. What direction of the zombie apocalypse, Marianne? Like, is it real? Could it happen? Is that what you're asking about? Thank you for relaying the messages, Stacy. I'm just laughing. So if anyone is interested in a reading, for me to do readings for the last hour that I'm on, by all means, pipe up, and I'm happy to do that. I can pick something else to talk about if you guys would like, without the research in front of me to reference. Your dad says, or sorry, your son says yes to readings, Marianne. Just confirm that that's what your son's talking about. Because I do have my my oracle cards next to me in case people are interested in having readings. So we'll present the other topics in a much more comprehensive, laid out format as far as voting goes for next week. And again, if anybody has any input on any of those for next week, you're welcome to private message me on Messenger. Jennifer says she'll take a reading. Okay. So yeah, what I'm asking, what about the zombie apocalypse, Marianne? Like, are you asking, as far as a question goes, are you asking about is it possible as to do as a topic of whether it would be possible for it to actually happen? Just to clarify. So for those who are watching either in YouTube land or across the world even, the topics that you can, if you have an input on and you want to have a say, you could either call in. I'm on the show for about another hour and 15 minutes. Yes, okay. Yeah, I'll jot that down, Marianne. Okay, Aaron, give her my love. His wife is calling him. Let's see. Oops, apocalypse real. So if you have an input that you'd like to have your voice be heard, I am all for that. My show really is a audience driven show. I mean, that's, if I don't have you guys paying attention to what I'm talking about, who is gonna, why am I doing it? So I give everybody a voice. So topics, in case for anybody listening who isn't getting their comments seen right now, because I can only access one thing, then as far as one platform, we had the Thunderbirds, the Russian Yeti conspiracy, the difference between tarot and oracle cards, the Rougarou, which is what got chosen for next week's topic, the Jersey Devil, werewolves, Atlantis, ancient Egypt, Dogman, dragons, Seth Speaks or Edgar Casey, which again, I'll have to make contact with them again to see if they would be willing. Oh, you were joking, but it could happen. Theoretically, perhaps. Yeah, I know. I knew that they would have trouble connecting to get into the show with the new format. And that's something you can always show them, on a group call or something. Yeah, I'll have to talk to Seth and Edgar again to see would they be willing to come through again for me during a show. Obviously, that would be good to know ahead of time. I mean, I still have my notes and things from when I originally presented the topic of what they did and their history and stuff. But as far as me bringing them in, then that's a little bit different. So and we also had J. Edgar Hoover to bring in. Now, I don't call it channeling per se unless they're pushing my consciousness aside to speak to me. That's true channeling. People misuse the word now when in referencing talking to soul beings, higher beings. It's by theory or definition, true channeling is when they're pushing your consciousness aside to where you don't really have a memory of what's said during that time. I tend not to allow that too much because I like to be in control of my own headspace. And so I'm happy to talk to them to translate what's being said, but I don't consider it channeling. It's conversations. So we also had Ross Peterson and tulpas as a topic. So if anybody has any input on a topic you'd like, by all means, give it a shout. The call-in number, if you want to voice it on the phone, is area code 929-436-2866. And the meeting ID number to enter once you get in is 522-657-2666. 2748, and you just follow the prompts and it'll let you know when to enter it and so forth. So, and I'm happy to do any calls that way. Or hit me up through private message in Facebook. I got a page called Beyond the Veil, and I have a group called the Willows Bend. So let me get my cards out. Well, first, Erin, can you ask Jennifer if she has a specific kind of reading she would like to be done now, or just a general whatever? Since you're passaging messages on for her. There you are. Got where I put them for a second there. You mean YouTube? You shared to Facebook or to YouTube? Okay, thank you. Jennifer Vaughn. Anything that comes through. Okay. So I will see if there's a deck that pulls me for you, and then let's move these off the table actually. That's real heavy cards. So just give me a second to bring them out, and then I'll have them at, and that way if anyone else wants a card reading, they'll be out to choose from. I've got, 5 different decks I actively use. There's a few others I bought that once I got them, I wasn't thrilled with. So, but I have them still. But there's only 5 that I actively work with. Sadly, they don't fit one box. Stone. Sorry, didn't mean to put you in there. Get that out of the way in case Jaker has to get down. Says Mom wants to know if you can do Abraham Lincoln, like how you channel it. I can message him. Sure, I'll just shoot him a private message. I can ask him if he would be willing to come through. And see what he says. If I get an answer back, which I've never not gotten an answer back, and then to, see if he's willing to come through on air. And they seem to have a fairly, an understanding of what it means to be on air, even though they're not in our dimension anymore to experience that. There's nothing saying that doesn't reside in other dimensions, just in different forms. And they watch what goes on here too. They have interest, especially if it's a past lifetime they've lived somewhere. They keep a side eye out on it. So let me make myself a note so I don't forget to ask and contact him as well. So Lincoln. Go. I don't know what the word Lincoln means. And to understand that it won't obviously just be a political show. And that's what some of you should understand or know too. I avoid discussing politics and things because nobody can seem to play nicely in discussing it like reasonable, rational, mature adults without ending badly. So I avoid that stuff on air or personally even. Daryl's just giving another way to get in if they choose to. All right, I haven't forgotten about you, Jennifer. Just getting my cards out, lady, and seeing if any of them pull me towards you for you. Gonna say these ones are a stronger pull. Thank you, Erin. I think it's neat. And once, we get used to doing it, okay, Nancy, it'll get easier, once you do it a few times to connect. Or like when I do the readings show on Thursdays, it'll be the same time slot on 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern time. Then, those will be via phone calls and Facebook messengers. We kind of both type of thing. So what message is there for Jennifer for her greater good that she needs to know? And thank you, Jennifer, for understanding. When I do cards, I ask the question 3 times because 3 is a sacred number, and it infuses the cards with the question of the energy a bit more. So, what does Jennifer need to know for her greater good? And by the way, Daryl, that's a pretty background that you put up. I don't know that it's visible behind me, probably not, but what you had behind you was pretty nice. He had it was like in the woods, kind of like a wooden set of stairs going upward with the sunlight coming through the trees and peaceful and such. Thank you to everyone in Gorton. This is amazing. Thank you all so much for the work you all do. Well, thank you, Aaron. And obviously they all heard that as I said it out loud on the show. All right, so Miss Jennifer. Now, for a general type of reading, usually unless someone requests more cards, I do a 3-card draw. And for me, how did you get over there without me seeing that? Holy crap. Hold on, guys. Okay, so Jennifer, you got a jumper that flew out of the deck unbeknownst to me. So let me go grab that. Jake, honey, don't steal my spot when I move because I gotta reach something. That's all, buddy. If I can from here without getting up and getting it, I might not be able to. No, I got it. Okay. I got it. I used my bottle of hand cream to pull it over towards me. All right, well, you got to see my dog's face peeking out anyway. All right, let me back in my spot. Thank you. Sunny, sun, sun. So I guess you get 4 cards. So typically when I do a 3-card draw, it's representative of, I say that all the time, Erin, when I have one pop out of the deck, is that there's a jumper. Some people don't know the meaning. I don't know the Van Wilder thing reference, but I do call them jumpers. When you're shuffling, one falls out of the deck or flies out of the deck, then that's a card I look at as you're supposed to have as part of your message. So there'll be 4 cards. So it's usually, for me, your now card of what's going on that you need to know now, what is coming for you to be aware of, and something to work on. And a jumper is just an extra of whatever category it might apply to for you. So your first card is the Family, Friends, and Guides card, and it's the Spirit card. So this is for your now time. So this is just to remind you, you're surrounded by them. You have them at your access for support and love and guidance. Your family, friends, and guides, they're always going to have your back, of those who are, true and valid. And I think now more than ever, knowing people who you're connected with, have become your family, probably much more than your actual family was for you. And that's okay. Sometimes we choose a family to be born into, and for certain lessons that we can gain from them, even if it's a traumatic event that occurs, doesn't mean there's still not lessons you can take. Sometimes it's simply to teach you strength or perseverance, or, to experience love from a different aspect inside of love than what the stereotypical side of it is, because there's many different relationships that involve love and different sides of it to be seen from. And once that's accomplished, then it's not serving your greater good to stay associated to them or healthy for one's psyche and physicality, perhaps in some cases. And it's okay if you go forward making your own family by those who do love you and support you unconditionally. So I feel like you have done that in your now time, Jennifer. And for what's coming is, and I think this is something that you could probably experience on your own, like in meditation. It's also a spirit card, and I know, this is something that you focus on and spend a lot of time working on, is the sacred temple. And this is a place that you can go to that you can call in your spiritual team to. For me, I do a lot of work with where I call it the hallway exercise, but it leads still to your sacred space that is kind of a doorway to tune into the spiritual aspect of you, to encounter perhaps or communicate with your guides or any higher beings around you, and learn what you can in there from them, any messages they may have, etc. So the sacred temple would kind of be the equivalent of that, where you could call them into that, visualize that, create it in your mind space during a meditation or otherwise, and then, to call in any ascended masters or higher guides or beings to be able to help give you anything you need to work on or improve and know, and open the lines of communication up and to work on connecting to them. Once you give over your trust and faith to them, that they got you. You reside in a place of being absolutely sure of that fact, then they tend to come through a little bit more clearly for you. Even if it's just sensing that they're there, if you can't open a dialogue with them, then even just sensing their energy, that's more than a lot of people get to do. So that can be a place for you to do that in. Now and that's something for you to work towards, or you can create that as a place to meet them in. Your future card is an event, and it's under the heading of great achievement. Now, for you, I don't think it's going to be necessarily like a physical event you go to, as much as something you're going to accomplish. I feel like it's within yourself, that you're going to accomplish and get to a certain place within yourself in your own path of healing and your own personal evolution, to release and let go of certain things. But you're going to have like an aha moment when you finally feel content and happy with where you're at. There's full acceptance of yourself. It will come, and it'll become very aware once it does happen, that this is where you're at now, and that acknowledgement of it. I feel like that's more of what it is relating to than a special ceremonial event per se. And that is the last one. It was the jumper card, and it's the people card, and it's professional assistance. And I think that this is big for you, that more and more now you're encountering people to help guide you on your path along your way on your journey, to help you recognize that the power to do so resides within you. It's a matter of you learning to trust yourself, gain the confidence, the experience, the self-esteem, and doing the shadow work and stuff that's going to lead you there. But there are certain people who are coming out of the woodwork on your path to work on those types of things with you, and that you're encountering that more now than ever before. And that's something for you to vibe towards rather than against. Be open to that growth, because in that growth, I mean, that really is, for anybody listening, why we're here, is to learn all we can through this experience, not just let life happen to you and pass you by, but to engage, to learn and grow from it, to learn about all the different aspects there are about pertaining to love, from different points of view and different, it's one thing. I'm sure on the other side is higher beings. There's an awareness of love, but it's more from like a textbook knowing. And it's only through having experiences, because we learn more through experiences than we do from, just somebody telling us or reading in the book. And because love is a complicated thing, and it's simple, but it's complicated. And I have, when I do readings from a soul connection side of things, and people, want to know how their loved ones are doing and so forth. Are they okay? Every single one of them mentions that there's nothing but love on the other side, that we don't carry with us, resentments and unresolved arguments. They don't hang on to that stuff on the other side. It doesn't belong over there. So it really is just love that they function and operate in. But to understand all the different sides of it, you've got to have the different experiences that are going to teach you about all the different facets of love, all the different ways that one can grow from love. You can't know one without the other, so to speak, but knowing the beauty of it without experiencing the harder parts of it as well, or from different perspectives, because you know, you have the romantic kind of love, you have a parent-child kind of love, a friendship kind. I mean, there's so many different varieties and variations of it to experience, to learn from. That's why we keep coming back and let's learn those lessons to grow from on the other side, to add to our collection of experiences that we have from lifetime to lifetime, and to take that opportunity as they present themselves to you. Recognize them. Everything is usually either a lesson or a blessing in your life. It's there for a reason. Pay attention to it. Don't get stuck in the woe is me consciousness, the victim consciousness of it. Instead, turn it around and say, what is this here to teach me? Or, hey, wow, this is a beautiful thing. Thank you to the universe for giving me this on my path. You know, it's one or the other most of the time. And so at least that's how I view it, as do many others. But yes, raising your consciousness and getting there, that's the first part of the journey, I think. So is there anybody else who would like a reading or to call in for one? You're welcome to do so. And I'm happy to do that for you. Or any general questions or otherwise you might have of well, kind of whatever. I'm kind of a storehouse of different information up in my brain pan. A little bit of everything. Spiritualism, mysticism, mystery, unsolved stuff, crimes, good heavens, conspiracy theories, whatever. I'm pretty knowledgeable on a lot of it. So anybody has a topic they'd like to talk about in general, you feel free to call in. The call-in number, you're very welcome, Jennifer, and lots of love to you. So the call-in number is area code 929-436-66, and the meeting ID number is 522-657-47. Sorry, try that one again, Donna. Don't be dyslexic. Meeting ID number, I'll give it to you again from the beginning, 522-657-2748. If someone, excuse me, would like to jump on the air and either get a reading, discuss the topic, whatever, I'm open and game to any of that. Gerald says, I would want to know about paganism and why is it supposedly so wrong to be a pagan? Okay, that's a good question. And so paganism is one of the oldest belief systems in the world, first of all. And it's not that it's so bad to be one. Well, depending on your foundation of beliefs, it's going to be how you perceive it to be. You know, those who are of the mindset within their foundation of beliefs can view that their way is the only way, their path is the only right one, and everybody and anybody else is wrong. Well, I'm new to everybody out there too, Daryl, and I understand that. So, you know, and people are busy at this time of the day, and so they're maybe listening, but they're doing other stuff while they're listening. So it's not a easy time to, you know, fully engage. Depending on what you're cooking. No, it's all right, Karen. So as far as paganism, it's one of the oldest belief systems out there. And again, it's only seen as bad if you are of a limited mindset that your way is the only path out there and everybody else is wrong but your path. And that really isn't true. Wicca's not better or worse than paganism. So I'll give a quick synopsis of each one for you, Marianne, so you can understand it too better. So Wicca is the newest religion of that's kind of being accepted in. It's not so much a religion as a way of life, but belief system. Here we go. It's growing in the U.S. It's been around since only really the 1950s, but it's kind of built upon paganism, Druidism, except it's been tweaked a little bit. So pagans, okay, Aaron, pagans are very earth-based, as are Druids and as are Wiccans. We're in touch with the energies of the earth. We mainly try to help people. So the difference between pagans and Wiccan belief systems is that pagans might be more willing to do something defensively and see it as being justified and okay to do, and like kind of like they make their own karma. There is no such thing as a separate karma. That it's really like, I'm making my own karma here, and there's not going to be any consequence because it's the right choice to make. But it's only typically done defensively in the defense of somebody else to do it. But they kind of justify that reasoning behind it, whereas Wiccans will tend to say, no, I'm not going to cross that line at all because there are consequences I could face for that on the other side from doing such things, and so I'm going to let karma handle it. Now, karma is not a punisher. It's not meant to be a punisher. It's a teacher. So when a lot of people misuse it and, karma's a bitch and so forth, but it's not meant to be that. It's a balancer. Everything in the universe is about balance. And, everything within pagan and Wiccan is really the same. Lonnie says, what are some tips or practices to strengthen communication with animals? Okay. Aaron, I wanted a roasted pig garnished with pineapple and cherries. Make that too, yeah. So pagans, and actually a lot of pagan beliefs were incorporated into the early formation of Christianity, which a lot of people are like, gasp, but it's true. A lot of the church looked at it as, we're going to be able to convert people easier and get them to agree to come over to our belief system if we take what they believe in, tweak it just a little bit where it's still very similar to it, and then they'll be more likely to accept it as a new practice and a new belief system if it's really similar to their old stuff. So hey, how much are you really changing in that? So as far as the differences, or why are pagans considered possibly a bad thing? Okay, so for example, you get a pedophile, somebody who is hurting children sexually and taking advantage of them. A pagan might be willing to do a certain spell to stop them from doing that to children. And they would look at it as being justified in doing so because you're helping protect children. And basically they start converting pagans as a financial gain. Essentially, they tried to convert everybody. Their way was the only right way, and they were doing God's work by, bringing souls over the fence to their side of thinking, and then kind of would utilize, the idea of sin and heaven and hell as ways of control. Most of the motivation behind those were power and gain on their side of things. But so pagans, or say if someone's attacking your family verbally, emotionally, financially, physically, whatever, they might do something in spell work to stop it from happening and step in and kind of, even if it violates someone's free will. Whereas Wiccans are less likely to violate free will because free will is a gift of everybody, and everybody has that right, and no one has the right technically to take that away from you. And even if you're doing it for the right reasons, where it's really justice driven or to help save somebody, you still can inadvertently violate someone's free will. So you have to think very carefully when you're doing things like that, because a lot of pagans will just be like, well, screw that. Like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do because it needs to be done. Are all cats? I will answer your questions, Lonnie. Let me finish answering his question first. So pagans are more willing to cross a boundary line that Wiccans have drawn for themselves, that we look at it, because I consider myself a Wiccan, that we consider ourselves unwilling to cross, because even though we may say there's a threefold law, it's not so much that we believe that whatever we put out is going to come back to us times three, as much as it's a way of checking and balancing ourselves and how we carry ourselves, just to simply remind us, hey, whatever you put out, good or bad, is going to come back at you either way, and there's always a consequence, good, bad, or otherwise. Sometimes it's not a bad consequence, it just is. Other times you can have disastrous results of your actions, and to be aware of that. So, hey, if I don't cross that line, then I don't have to worry about it. Or even in the afterlife, an accountability with your next lifetime. It's said that we really are designing our next lifetime based on what we're doing with this one. So if you are living a crappy life, and this time around you're wasting the gift of that life, you're not learning anything, you're not doing anything with yourself to better yourself or the world at large, then you're kind of wasting that time. So you're not meeting your life's goals, so you're going to repeat all those lessons in the next life in order to get it learned, because you're meant to learn them. So if you don't learn them this time around, it'll carry over. So that's a form of what karma actually is. It's a teacher. It's not a punisher. It's not meant to punish you for your actions or hold you in that way. So pagans, and the difference between pagans, or why it may be seen as bad, is that they are more willing to cross that line and say, there's no such thing as karma. We make our own karma. I'm karma. And so this needs to be done because it's the right decision to make. Regardless what comes of it, I say, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway. Whereas Wiccans are more likely to say, you know what, I'm not going to risk that, because it could come back at me down the road in ways I'm not even aware of, and I'm not going to take that chance. So I'm going to behave myself and not do anything that violates somebody's free will, which ultimately those types of things come back to doing, is you're violating someone's free will by taking away their choice from them. And some people would say, oh, people who hurt children, they don't deserve a choice. Well, be that as it may that you think that, all people still have the right to free will, and you're not supposed to do anything that's going to remove that from them. And so if you're casting a spell to stop them, well, that's forcing your will on them. So it's better not gone there. Where pagans, they may do just that, just thinking it's the right way to handle something. So that's really where paganism gets seen as a bad thing, but the practices are very similar, and the beliefs are very similar otherwise between Wicca and pagan. And in fact, one comes from the other. So if you picture paganism as like an umbrella, underneath the umbrella is Wicca. So it kind of, and above the paganism is another umbrella that's Druidism. It's a much more ancient belief system, but still related than paganism, and then Wicca below that. So hopefully, no, okay, you're going to think this is complicated to keep up with, Sandy. So if you are, so Christianity is paganism. No, because Christianity is made up of more than just paganistic beliefs. They have taken bits and pieces from even the Egyptian belief culture of, Sunday, that came from the sun god Ra. So, I mean, they take bits and pieces to incorporate it into their fold, giving it a Christian twist in order to make it be. So Christmas is, and science and most Christians now accept that Christ wasn't born December 25th, as was previously accepted. It doesn't line up right. And in fact, it more was that they were taking the Yule holiday that is celebrated amongst Druids, Wiccans, and pagans that time of the year, and turning it into Christmas. So they're borrowing bits and pieces of different cultures in their celebrations, their practices, to convert people from other belief systems into their fold, because if it's similar, you're more likely to go against it or to go with it and accept it, the change. Now, as far as the Wicca and witches thing goes, so if you are pagan, you're a witch. If you're Wiccan, you can choose to be, and practice witchcraft. Not everybody chooses to, though, and that's okay. Whatever you choose to do with that, pick up that mantle or not, Sandy. And you can, just like not all witches practice the spell work. I don't delve deeply into spell work because it's just not really my forte. I'll do candle magic spells and things for people like that. That's there to help them, but I don't go full throttle into, in depth with it. But that's my way. Other people are fully immersed in it. It is a personal choice, and or what kind of a witch you feel like you are. But it's a craft. It's an ongoing learning process and experience that you choose to pick up and take on or not. But then again, you also don't have to be a full pagan or Wiccan to recognize you do fit the definition of being a witch. There are many out there who have both sets of beliefs into their mix, where they consider themselves Christian witches. Does that make sense, Sandy? Which is, according to the Christians, paganism is any belief system with more than one god or goes against Christian values, which does not follow or believe in their Bible. Well, with the polytheism thing is a belief in multiple gods and goddesses. It's understanding and looking at it like that it is a hierarchy. So it's not just the one soul being, that like God has helpers, basically, is the idea behind it, that there's different, we all have a supervisor, we all have a boss idea, and that there's, every boss has another boss above them. Well, kind of that idea of so above, so below, in that, you have sub-guide helpers, you have full-on spirit guides who are said to have to take several human lifetimes to learn how to be a spirit guide for someone. And then above them, I don't know what they call themselves because I've not directly spoken with them, but I do know that there are beings that they are answerable to. My guides are answerable to above them. And it keeps going up the line until you reach the source energy. But that source energy is within every living thing. So it's all part interrelated. Magic is neither good nor bad. It's the user who decides. Yeah, so, the Christianity, they tend to be very single-minded to where they look at it as my beliefs are the only right way to believe, and nothing is as valid as my way. Now, there are those, like I said earlier in the show, those open-minded Christians who understand that there is more out there than just, you're not in this little square cube where you're residing, that you take the blinders off. There's a whole lot more out there than what you were just taught. It's not negating like your foundation of beliefs as much as saying there's more to it than just that. Always a hierarchy. Why is that? Why is there always walking up when deities of creation are found in our DNA? Well, that's just it, Daryl, is that I'm not sure why every culture has their own hierarchy of different deities that they follow, but there always is one. And again, that saying so above, so below is accurate. What we do here, is done on the other side, with minus all the hatred and cruelty and the bad stuff. Personally, like the Gorton, the original Bible. Well, it's even thought about as far as like the Bible goes, that the Old Testament was as violent as it was because those were qualities that were, respected in a leader back then. And it was a very wartime of our history. Whereas during the New Testament, the things calmed down. There weren't any major wars going on and people out to wipe out entire populations of people with stuff, so that they, they were more accepting and loving and easygoing at that time. So Lonnie is asking some cat questions. Let's see. Scrolling back up in chat to get Lonnie's questions. What are some tips or practice to strengthen communication with animals? First of all, I think, Lonnie, a willingness to openly communicate with them. And rather than trying to focus on using just your mind to talk to them, you have to listen with your heart. So clear out all of that and listen using your heart space. And then that tends to open the door more easily. And different beings, different animals, they will communicate differently, just like you get a quiet human. Well, you can get a quieter animal, but most of them have a whole lot to say, and you can't shut them up if given the chance. So yeah, I would definitely say that as far as how to communicate easier, listen with your heart, not your mind. And are all cats Lyrians? I don't think so. Not originally. I think the DNA of all that resides in this plane of existence has been probably tampered with in one way or another that led to the being in the form and shape that we know it today. And you're very welcome, Marianne. Which is, according to the Christians, paganism is any belief system. Yeah, we read that one already. Okay, sorry. Bad. Okay. Gerald said, then God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and all the living things that move on the earth. God looked at everything he had made, and he found it very good. The key word is us. Yes, and I use that argument with people a lot of times who, because of their foundation of beliefs, viewing like having gifts and stuff as being an evil, bad thing, or it's demonic, and oh, you're possessed. I said, so if you are, say, Christian, and you believe in the Bible and what the Bible teaches, then wouldn't it serve to say, because the Bible says we are created in God's image, that God made us like God, and so that divine energy is within us and every other living thing. It's not just a limited, separate being in the sky that doesn't answer your prayers. It's in all things that are living. Hey, Linda. Aaron says, when you boil each religion down to its core without the dogma, they all surround around the same ideals. Yeah, because I look at it as the core foundation of beliefs across every belief system across the world. They really do carry the same message, which ultimately goes back to love, right? Treat everybody, the way you want to be treated, and with kindness. Don't be a jerk in this life. Don't hurt everybody intentionally, and conduct yourself in a certain way. Well, those are also referenced in being like what spiritual people we recognize as the universal laws. And those universal laws are called such because they are accepted universally across all belief systems globally, but also are thought to be what rules there are on the other side that soul beings have to abide by in order to function. But we forget that in coming back again for our next incarnation. So that's part of the learning process, is to relearn it all. Who's getting pizza? I was late to the show a bit where cats in Egypt talked about earlier. I did talk about them, yes, in Bastet, Lonnie, and who Bastet is supposed to be as far as why she was worshipped. Did you have another question about it, Lonnie? Oh, Aaron's got pizza. I hope you brought enough for the whole group, Aaron, to be fair. Just saying. So, yeah, I mean, I am a very spiritual person. Obviously, I teach a lot about it to others, and it's based not off of just my own say-so on stuff. It's through years of reading everything I can get my hands on, through my own personal experiences with things and seeking answers to those things. You know, it's a combined thing. It's not just from one source. It's, to me, I lost sound saying video has no sound. Try going out and coming back in, Annette. You'll watch your replays, says Lonnie. Okay. Hi, Yvonne, by the way. Yeah, so I would try going out and back in, Lonnie, if you can hear me. If you can't, you're not going to hear me telling you to go out and come back in. This was roasting a pig, Aaron. See, roasting pig, getting pizza, he cheats. So, you know, you'll hear me talking a lot about that in my show. Aloha, Yvonne. I've been posting about it, ladies, so all I can recommend is check your Facebook notifications and keep up with them, and that it's all in the, you know, the group. I've been keeping everybody up to date on changes, how to reach into the show. There is a post pinned to the top of the group page on how to get into the show and so forth, so it's all in there. Come on, I wouldn't leave you guys empty-handed. I have a lot of scary experiences, Lonnie, but more so I would say from before I got answers to what those things were and had all my gifts open to me, you know, and in experiencing those things of not being supported through it, not understanding what I was experiencing, whereas now I do, it's not scary to me. No matter what I face, I'm not afraid of it. So one of those types of things. I had more of my scary stuff happened as a kid than as an adult. Once I got, because everybody, for those who have no knowledge on a topic or, you know, perhaps don't understand it from the same perspective, whichever, you can have, you know, there are those with gifts who can get them all at once and have them as far back as they can remember into, you know, their oldest memory, that they're always fully there and open, and they're seeing things and they are experiencing things that they have no explanation for. Other people tend to, they can have them opened up to them as they're ready to handle them, which was certainly my case. Now, that being said, I've had them all open with some minor tweaking here and there, where some gifts have expanded and grown, and others, you know, there's been a couple of new things come in over the years. But overall, as far as being able to communicate with the other side and so forth, that has been at least a good decade anyway, or going on that anyhow. You know, it didn't happen until after I turned 40. So for some people, that's how it works. And I don't know why or where it's different for some than it is others. Never really got the answer to that, but it is a thing. So depending when you got your experiences and how well you know yourself to understand them is going to determine how much you incorporate it into you now, and choosing that, hey, this is just another piece of who I am, and okay, integration and move on, or be freaked out by every little thing because you don't have an understanding, but you're not willing to learn it and go out and seek the knowledge on it, or those who can help teach you. Then you're going to reside more in a fear place, I think. So anyways, that's my interpretation on gaining an understanding on that path. But everybody's path is different, and how each person experiences it can be different as well. Right. And so for you, Yvonne, you were a bit more spacey, but you had your head in the clouds, but you're always running to meet the next big adventure, whereas others, not so much. One note I recorded in my room, I was sleeping, heard a gasping. Next day, my throat hurt. That night, my cat slept with her head over my head and body, covering my neck. Can a cat protect you, or is this coincidence or me going crazy? So, Marianne, and anyone else who wonders this, yes, animals can very much protect you. And I mean, that was kind of the topic of tonight's show, is cats in spirituality, and that being one of the things that they can pick up on, any spirit activity in your home or around you in your environment, they can pick up on that. And so in doing so, yeah, if they perceive something to be a threat to you, then yes, them protecting you is kind of a foregone conclusion that they might choose to do so. And I don't think that anything in this life is a coincidence or chance. So if something happens, it's for a reason. It's just figuring out what that reason is. And Bon says, since 2 to 3 year old experiences started, so thought it was normal. Yeah, and some people are they don't understand what's happening. As they start to talk about it more, they get labeled as being schizophrenic, and they get, put on medication by their parents, and, not being believed and understood is a terrible place to function from as a child. So many who had them from as far back as forever, you learn to shut them down and not talk about it. The more you do that, well, the more you're going to separate from these are your experiences. This is what you deal with. So, what I mean? Like, it's going to be one of those things that you do incorporate completely as who and what you are, or not. I mean, I think for me, it's easier as I came out of the spiritual closet, if you will, several years back, saying this is who I am, and I'm not going to hide it to make someone else feel comfortable. If you don't accept me as I am, well, then there's a door over there. Don't let it hit you in the ass on the way out. You don't have to be in my circle if you think I'm just crazy and nutso, and I'm telling myself what I want to hear, or that I'm a fake or a fraud or whatever. Like, I wish you well, and that's your choice to not believe me or in it. And I think it's kind of closed-minded for those who empirically say, absolutely not. It's not real. It doesn't exist. There's nothing to that. And again, much like science always wants you to have to prove all of this to them, well, why don't they have to prove it to us? It doesn't exist, rather than just taking that as a stance. Hey, that's not real and it doesn't exist. But they don't have they're not showing any proof that it does or it doesn't. They're just saying it doesn't. But more and more are starting to say, okay, there's got to be something to this. Why, hide your beauty and amazing is correct. I was told I'm a spiritual poser. Oh, yeah. And mother said, ignore it. Yeah, and my mom, as much as she was a medicine woman, and she had gifts of her own, but I think in her mind, she thought she was helping me by kind of, as a child at least, to have me not be as afraid. She would kind of say, well, there's nothing there now, so don't worry about it. And as a kid, you'll accept that and move on, but it doesn't work once you're older and you start to want an understanding of things. Just being told there's nothing there now, don't worry about it, doesn't work, because something's there. Exactly, Aaron. We're all spiritual beings having a human experience. Absolutely. And so that's how I view things, no matter what you've been taught in the foundation of beliefs you were born into in your family environment, what have you. It doesn't mean you can't grow. Still keeping that, absolutely, and working within that, absolutely. You will never, ever, ever hear me say, well, you're wrong for believing in that, and you're wrong for being a Christian or being a Muslim or whatever belief you are. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, don't be closed-minded about it, is my message. Of understand there's always more to learn, and nobody knows all of the answers. We're not supposed to, because there is no learning that's going to happen in that headspace of that my way is the only way and that there's nothing more to learn or gain. It is the way it is. There's no expansion in there. I would never pretend to be something I'm not. Well, good for you, Sandy, and I wish more people had that strength to come out and say that. So many people are still caught up in the, I worry what everyone's going to think of me. I don't want everybody thinking I'm crazy. Well, you know what? Why does everybody's opinion mean so much? Why are you allowing their opinions to mean so much to you, to influence you in your life and your choices, when it is your life, it's your path, and your choices to make? I don't know. I think the further evolved you get on your path, then the less that stuff starts to mean anything. I'm not here to have a popularity contest. If you don't vibe towards me or find what I talk about valid, I wish you well. I don't have anything against you, It's more of a just don't be so closed-minded that you immediately shut everything else out in the process and you stop learning and growing. One is never too old to stop learning and growing from not just spiritual stuff, but anything in life. And it's why we're here. Marion says she agrees. Sandy says, and therefore I told my daughter not to talk about it, and people think she was crazy because you were taught to do the same. Yeah. We continue those generational curses that are passed down to us, and the parent tapes that play in our heads, that we get told certain things to look at and ways to look at things. And you can either, if you recognize there's not truth in that and you are not speaking your truth, well, stop playing those parent tapes and instead learn to validate things for yourself. Trust what you get, trust you, and that if you're having it happen, again, a child should be listened to and believed, unless they are known for, residing and telling lies all the time. But beyond that, yeah, if they're saying there's this going on, even if you don't understand it, doesn't mean you can't help find somebody to help teach your child how to manage gifts or understand them if they are gifted. And it's not I don't think it's a gift is not necessarily the right word for it. I think we all are capable to tap into this stuff, but we limit ourselves through our foundation of beliefs, our experiences that say right or wrong or grow, not grow. And we can shut any expansion in those areas down, or choose to learn and grow them, understand them. It's my outlook. Big change since meeting me. Well, thank you, Sandy. I am who I am. I am how I am. Popeye the Sailor Man. Take it or leave it. If you leave it, that's okay. If you take it, hell yeah. Exactly. So many people thought I was a weirdo talking to myself in the corner when I was growing up. Well, sure. And many people, especially in the older generations, you were looked at as like being seriously mentally ill if you came out with this stuff as kids and you kept talking about it and seeing it. They were much more worried about how their neighbors viewed them back then, or what people would think about them if they had a kid who did that. So, they would get you hooked up into with a psychiatrist and evaluated and labeled and diagnosed and medicated to treat it. But how many of those people were gifted versus serious? I mean, trust me, I know mental health issues exist out there. Absolutely. Including schizophrenia, which is a common one because of the hearing and seeing things part. It can be written off as having hallucinations, but at the same time, you can be tested for it, and there is nothing else validating that that's a mental illness versus an experience you're perceiving as having. I don't want anyone to think she's crazy, says Sandy. Well, sure, why would you want that to have people look at your child that way? But it certainly was common, back in the 50s and 60s to, if you came out with that stuff as a child, well, even before, I'm sure that, don't talk about that stuff and, it's not real, or negated on it, rather than being supported and given a voice as a child. What a great gift to give a child, to have their own voice and to walk in their own truth, to not be afraid to speak it. Now, having your own voice and walking in your truth does not mean it's necessarily a correct truth or the only truth, but it's your truth as you know it to be. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate the belief in me. And Linda says, Lorraine, Warren helped me break out of my shell a little. Then after meeting me, I was like, boom, here I am. Because she's just like, who cares what one thing? So exactly. Karen says, asylum bound. I do say that. And of course, I was taught all that same stuff as a kid to worry about that. You don't air your dirty laundry in public. You don't talk about that stuff. Secrets. And I was always kind of like, why? Why can't you talk about that in public? Why can't I mention this in public? And there always was a scattering of having it come from different directions growing up. So whilst, like, for example, overall, my mother believed me because she had gifts herself and grew up with that. But she also did that, the family secret singer, you don't air your dirty laundry in public, worrying what others thought of you. She didn't own her own spiritual path until she was, middle-aged. I mean, she died in middle age, but, at least she got there at some point. But as another example, for my daughter, she's gonna be 25 this month. It's all scares her to death. She's not happy to talk, but she won't talk about it, and she denies it because it's easier. So it's a personal choice, but you have to be, if you're going to go public, sure, you got to be prepared that there will be those people who think you're, not the real deal, or something is wrong with you, or you're just mentally ill, whatever label they want to give you. When it's more, to me, that's more their problem than yours. Yeah, that's how I look at it mostly. The old way of doing things, sweeping under the rug. Correct. My mother's father had foresight. Well, at least somebody did, and I hope that is what ran down to you, Sandy. Karen says, I'm happy that the attempt to train me failed early, and my parents gave up on trying. Well, it's unusual, though, if they gave up trying. Not all are so fortunate. I grew up, my mother, I guess if you were going to put labels on her growing up, I would put her into the realm of like flower child, tree hugger type of personality, where being aware and tuned into the energy of the earth around you. And she used to say, those who were quiet enough and showed enough respect would see things and hear things other people might miss. And that really was true. Just with the magic of the woods themselves and what resided in it, and the energy was there. So in that sense, promoting it, but at the same time, what she wanted me going public, saying suddenly, hey, I can see and hear spirits, well, probably not. Until the rug is pulled out from under you, correct. So how you handle any of that stuff with your own spirituality is a personal choice. The only thing I say is don't go judging everybody else's path, because you're not the judge and the jury, and your way may not be the only way out there. And won't you be surprised to get on the other side and find that you kind of have become that through them? Yeah, everything boils down to love, and Karen's saying that, but it's true. Then I had a spirit contact her all the time because he wanted people to know how he passed. Right, a lot of times they have something they want to say, and they're reaching out to be heard. Karen said, I was loud and proud back then, even to my mom was Mrs. Cleaver. Well, at least you had that support, though. That's good. I'm not sure. I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. I'm not sure if, like, if you were to, I guess, certain communities, certain places around the country, at least here in the U.S., because that's what I can only speak to is, my own backyard, so to speak. But we all have heard horror stories of, say, if you were raised, I don't know, and I'm not at all picking upon them by any means, so please don't take it as I am, but say you were raised as a Mormon, and to step away from those beliefs to grow yourself is so frowned upon. Scientology, same thing, if to grow outside of them is very frowned upon, and you are looked at more like you're betraying everything rather than just trying to grow yourself. Aaron says, I always do my best to promote love. I give my love because love is eternal. Love is infinite. What you do, you give is replenished. Correct, Aaron. Marianne said, this group is my support. No one else believes who lives here. The ones who left remember the spirits. Yeah. Joe said, that is so true. We're taught to question authority. I question everything. And yes, I've seen much in my life that people call taboo topics. And if I were left off, being taught through time travel, see UFOs and beings I can't explain, like fairies, strange creatures like rabbits that run on two legs, lights under the ocean. All I can say is experience, and not having closed mouth does not give a child freedom to see beyond. No, you're absolutely correct, Daryl. That if you're taught to, there was a show on, I want to say maybe 2010, 15 range. It was done by Chip Coffey, and it was identifying parents who had kids who were gifted, and he wanting to focus on putting them in touch with each other so that they could kind of create their own support network amongst each other, but also meet with him kind of regularly to learn how to cope with what they were experiencing and to teach the parents how to better support these children. I mean, what a beautiful thing. I absolutely love that. And I don't think it ever should have been taken off the air or stopped. And hopefully in his private life, he's continued that work, because that's a needed gift I think children need to have available. Especially if the parents don't understand it, don't want to understand it, don't choose to understand it. If you stay closed-minded to it, then a child can't flourish in that environment. And just because your parents don't have any gifts that are open to them, well, it doesn't negate the fact that the kid can. And that stuff tends to run in families. A lot of times it's the maternal line, but I think it's more because of women are taught to be in touch with their emotions. It's almost expected, where men are taught shut it down and don't come from an emotional place. So more of that's not found in men, or it's not known about because they're, having it from the female perspective of, I think that aids our intuition. Those things were allowed to grow in us because we were allowed to be emotional creatures we're meant to be. Yvonne says, in Hawaii, I learned it as I got older. Hawaiians believe we lived in two different realities, so no big thing to have experiences like talking to our ancestors. Oh yeah, and ancestors are highly respected there too. Linda says, my great-grandmother was my go-to person when I was really little, when I wanted to talk about it, my gift. Her house was haunted, and she saw spirits too. Some of my early memories of spirits were in her house. But that's cool that she supported you through that, Linda, and that you had her. So even if, for example, your mom had been taught to shut it down and not understand it, she still was almost probably recognizing you did have those gifts, because when you have your gifts open, you can you see it in other people. So for example, I mean, soul beings do too. I've talked to them, and they say it really is much like that our inner light is brighter than the average human who isn't open. So our light shines brighter so they can find us again, if, whether they're keeping an eye on us or not. Well, it's another matter, but in order to keep the lines of communication open, yeah, so it can be a thing. Karen says, do you promote love? I'll promote acceptance. Children of the Paranormal, is that what it was called? And that says, oh, Donna, growing up in Utah, that's more true than ever. I always felt like an outcast. Now I understand why. Yeah, but at least, and that you vibrated away from it enough to not say negate your belief system, but really more to understand that there's more than that, and that that's okay. So, and that's okay to grow that within yourself. You know what I'm saying? So you're not as limited to just that in your comprehension of the world. And, here, at least when you're with me, you're not going to get bashed for having those belief systems, because I accept no matter what your beliefs are, I respect everybody on their foundation of that. As long as you give me respect, I'll give it, even if you don't respect me, that's okay. I don't wish you will or harm because of it. Just kind of like, that's your choice. Aaron says he loves chip coffee. Yes, I did see the clock. Thank you. My little clock's next to me. Let's see. Karen says, good. I've had love without acceptance. Not cool. No, it's not cool. Absolutely not, Karen. I mean, if I was with some of the people I've been together in a relationship in the past and they were to meet me now, good Lord, they'd be calling the men in white coats on me, He's still on Kindred Spirits. Yes, I don't have cable to see the show, but I've seen the reruns of Kindred Spirits, and I love them. They're awesome people. Yeah, Chip Coffee's awesome. I mean, I've heard different things about him in his private life, but everybody has different moods and bad moods, and you may be on an off day you're meeting him, but overall he promotes acceptance, love, and self-respect, and reside in the place you come from. Yes, and she got it from both sides of her family, says Sandy. Well, Terry says, I'm here just having Wi-Fi issues. I'm sorry, Terry. Psychic Kids was the show. Yeah, that was a really good show. Like I said, I hope as a project that it's still going on kind of behind the scenes, because it was a great idea to be supportive, especially when one's parents don't understand it, to support them themselves. Then it's creating international relationships between kids of all, walks of life to resonate together, who are having these same experiences of, you know what, I'm here if you need to talk. I'm here for you to bounce stuff off of and to help guide you. So beautiful things. Linda said, I always remember Grandma Sheridan making it out to be like our own superpower. She used to tell me that we were special because not everyone else could do what we did. It's true. Not everybody can, but, it's more of a choice to pursue it than not. So I'm glad you got to have her when you did and that you shared that with her. That's awesome. So, any rate, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. And I want to thank you both on Facebook. And I'm sorry, I can't access the YouTube comments simultaneously, but that I will. If I'm able to go back and look at it, I will. And again, you're always welcome to reach out to me on Messenger. If anybody who's new to me, you have a show suggestion or feedback, whatever, that's fine. I'll be back in here at 4 p.m. Eastern time this Thursday for readings, and then I go live on my Facebook page, Beyond the Veil, for readings on Friday. I'm going to give this a run for going back to 3 shows a week. And that says, I could never grasp the foundation or teachings of the Mormon. Even when I was a child, I'd put up a fight about going to church. It just wasn't where I was meant to be. And I think it's important that you identified that for yourself, though, and that. So, but anyways, thank you to everybody who's listening and watching through Global Enlightenment Radio Network, and for having me come on board as a newbie. And I want to thank everybody who's been listening and spending your time with me. And hopefully I will hear from you all again. I love everybody from my Facebook chat and my group as well. And I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful rest of the night, and stay well and safe out there. Make good choices for yourself and towards others. And above all, know that you are loved. So thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the night, and I'll see you soon. Bye.